All right, Reds, welcome along to another Lunchtime Live. It's Ben here exclusively on YouTube, by the way. So please smash a like on this video if you're watching right now. Share that link far and wide. Let's get people from other platforms on this crazy world that we live in at the moment over to this show live on YouTube right this second. As I said a moment ago, thanks to you who are already joining us. And if there's anyone watching back right now, get involved in the comments. We've got loads to cover on today's show. Guys, what do you think, first of all? I've come up with a name for the show. I don't want us to do these tactical previews anymore. I want us to do like really free-flowing, spirited shows from the latest United news. So I thought we could call it Rants and Rambles.
Oh, two grumpy old men.
Well, who ran and ramble all the time.
I like Rants and Rambles and one grumpy old man, namely Neil, plus me.
Plus, that's a bit of a long title.
Yeah, that's a big business.
So let's just call it the Grumpy Neil slot.
The grumpy, well, okay.
Slot.
Slot.
Oh, okay.
Well, welcome. I still think Rants and Rambles is better, but welcome to the Grumpy Neil slot.
Let's go with. I like Rants and Rambles, Ben.
Rants and Rambles. And it differs week on week who's rants and who's rambles. It depends what type of mood you're both in. Yeah. But I love doing this show. Neil and Barry with me as ever, as you can see. Loads to discuss today. I want to pick Neil and Barry's brains on former United greats and former AC Milan greats as well a bit later on and see if we can put together some sort of all-time United 11. Now, Barry wanted to do research. What do you think this is? Sky Sports, Barry? Bloody hell.
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely. I've got to dig into the recesses of my brain for this one.
Barry, it's all up there, mate. You've got it all up there. You always have it all up there. You never need to do any research. I'm the one who has to do research. I've put an 11 together. I've had a few tweets in from people. Guys, get in the live chat right now. Let us know your combined all-time United and AC Milan 11s. Of course, this is going to be one of those things that's going to differ generation to generation. So I'm going to share some of my players soon, and Neil's going to share some of his, and Barry's going to share some of his. But first of all, guys, we have to get reaction to the biggest United talking point. We've got a director of football. What that means, we're not sure. We'll try and decipher that over the next 15 minutes. But Neil, let's come to you first. How did you react to that announcement?
Slightly underwhelmed, to be honest. I was expecting a big name. I was expecting a director of football. I'm not sure he'd be allowed to direct the traffic, to be honest. It depends on what he's allowed to do. And I do worry that it's a bit of a yes man or something like that. And maybe we should have gone and got one of the so-called bigger directors in European football, and you know, rather than promote someone into that position, I would have gone for one of the big directors out there. Then I was talking to the bloke from Red Bull. They were talking about him, and there's other ones around. The guy from Dortmund. I can't remember any of the names. I'm just a bit underwhelmed at the moment. I'm sorry to be cynical, but I'll take a watching brief over it.
Mm-hmm. Of course, John Murtough is the name, or John Murtough, however you want to pronounce it. He is our new director of football, or director of football operations, as they put it in the statement. Barry, Darren Fletcher is going to be joining him, making a mini team there as a technical director of football. Again, whatever that means. Like Neil, were you underwhelmed by the announcement, or what are your thoughts on it?
I kind of was a little bit taken aback because it kind of came out of nowhere. We've been talking about a director of football for years, and I remain kind of guarded in what I say. I think we have to give these guys a chance. I know very little about Mr. Murtough, so I can't even venture an opinion. But like Neil, I also thought we'd get a big name. So I guess the cynics would say, are these internal appointments to act as yes men to Ed Woodward and his bosses, or are these guys who will really make a difference? And I think we have to give them a chance. I cannot pass judgment on that. Darren Fletcher, of course, is very well known to us. And, you know, Darren Fletcher, in listening to him talking on various podcasts, the guy comes across really very, very well. Whether he'll translate that into his role as into technical director, I'm not sure. And I'm not sure what these roles encompass. So I think we've got to give them a chance. If you look at a lot of the big clubs, you know, we're always going on about how well organized, for example, Bayern Munich are with this tremendous infrastructure in place. So now we've got the infrastructure with everybody by name and by title. Let's see what they do, and I think we must remain a bit guarded in passing judgment. I really can't comment at the moment.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it feels like a step in the right direction, having a director of football and a team of people in charge of the football operations, which potentially isn't Ed Woodward and Matt Judge, so to speak, although Matt Judge is still going to be, or just say Muck Judge or Matt Judge then. Matt Judge is still going to be in charge of football negotiations, whatever that means. It feels like a step in the right direction, but the question mark is always, and I think this is going to be a blanket question for both of you, what are they actually going to do? What are their roles? What does a football director mean? What is that? Neil, to you, what is a director of football?
I have no idea. This European system, it's clearly the way that the game's gone. But I don't really know what do they do. They're meant to be a conduit between the board and the management team is what I would hope. And trying to get deals over the line quicker rather than us waiting 6 months to get a deal over the line that the whole world knows is going to be our deal. I'm just hoping it's just a conduit between the management and the board. I would have personally, going back to the previous question, Van der Sar, I can't believe they didn't move heaven and earth to get him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he would have been a great signing. He would have been a big signing. But I suppose, Neil, Van der Sar was given that opportunity at Ajax off the back of no experience. So why shouldn't United invest in two people who have come up through the ranks over the most recent years behind the scenes in Darren Fletcher and John Murtough? It's a similar sort of thing as to what Ajax done, really.
Yeah, like I said, I'll take a watching brief at the moment. But I just hope it's a better communication between Ollie, his staff, and the board. And I hope that's where the director of football. That's where I would see a director of football sitting.
Barry, what about you? What should a director of football be doing, and how can a director of football contribute to the ongoing progress that United are starting to show as a club with our youth development? John Murtough apparently played a big part in that. John Murtough's apparently played a big part in bringing the women's football team together and making that the success it is. So how does he continue that for the first team, and what do you expect to see him do?
Yeah, I think Neil put that across very well. I agree with him completely. And I would see one of his roles as being kind of the bridge between management and board. And I kind of prefer the idea of hearing, albeit in name, director of football, to the knowledge that the likes of Woodward and Judge and Arnold are kind of the football men brokering all the deals and deciding who we should and shouldn't get. Because if the media are to be believed, they really haven't done a great job of it in recent years. So I would see his job as being in discussion with the manager, looking at what the blueprint is going forward. The type of football that we're going to play would be Darren Fletcher's department. And the recruitment, I think, is a big factor with respect to what the director of football will need to be involved in. And, eyeballing the type of player that we need, and short-circuiting what usually, when United are involved, are these massive negotiation processes. When we look at Europe's top clubs acquiring players, there's very little fanfare before they get them. The rumour mill doesn't churn. We don't see much on social media until it's actually announced that they've gotten the player. And I'd like to see us doing exactly the same, if possible.
Yeah, and that would be something that obviously the director of football negotiations, Fletcher, and Murtough hopefully do together. Just before we move on and talk about our all-time potential AC Milan and Man United team, just one more round on this, Neil. And I think it's really interesting because the director of football as a role has really come out of the stick, so to speak, in the last, 10 to 15 years? It never used to be a big thing, did it? Why for you? Why for you is a director of football potentially so important now to a football institution like Manchester United or in the footballing world to clubs? Because it seems like it's a way to be able to bring the new breed of coaching and manager in, to have less responsibility on them and more responsibility at a board level to control that on the pitch action in terms of as a business. So you get more control over your business, so to speak.
Well, I think the director of football, or whatever we're going to call them, football director, God knows, this title would never have ever happened under Ferguson, and it wouldn't have happened under Wenger at Arsenal, because they run the club from top to bottom. Clubs have sort of been carved up a little bit, a bit of an Americanism, the way that in the NFL there's a GM, there's a player personnel, there's all these different roles you have in the NFL. And there's a little bit of that. I mean, there's obviously quite a big American influence we've had in the Premier League over the years, with the amount of American owners that have come and gone. And I think it's just a way, hopefully it's just a way to allow the coaches to just concentrate on the first team squad, but still influence the way that the whole club plays. And then the director of football, the manager turns around and said, these are the players we're after, and they go off and do it. Bit like, in some respects, replacing David Gill, which we never replaced. Ferguson would write a list of players, give them to David Gill. David Gill would go off and do the deal, and Ferguson would carry on with his day-to-day job. And I'm hoping it's a little bit of that, and these two combine themselves into the David Gill role, because we massively missed that. And I know there's a lot of United fans that probably weren't aware of the influence that David Gill had on his club. But when Ferguson left, losing Gill at the same time was absolutely catastrophic to this club. Mm-hmm. We've never recovered from it since.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I agree what you say with, so to speak, I think clubs are becoming more like franchises, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I think that's the next step. I do think it's that influence. And as of yet, I don't know if it's a positive for the thing for the game or not. All I do know is we talk as a club about progress. How does our club progress? How does our club move forward? And I still feel like we can look back at the last 24 months, potentially at the end of the season. And obviously I want first team success amongst all of this, and that's really important for Ollie and his job, so to speak. But I do believe that it's been fundamental areas which United have substantially improved in over the past 24 months. I think a big moment was not having our pants ripped down by Dortmund. I think that was a big moment in terms of our negotiations and how we work with clubs. Maybe it didn't help the footballing team. Maybe it didn't help us this year by not having Jadon Sancho in our team. Maybe it's cost us challenging for the title potentially. But I think we were right not to get our pants pulled down in that moment, because in the current economic climate and the frame of where the world is at the moment, paying £120 for a footballer would not be sustainable for a club or that player. It was just a ridiculous amount of money quoted. Although money doesn't matter to us, we've still got to remember, whether we like it or not, whether Barry likes it as an older fan, whether Neil likes it as an older fan or not, football clubs are becoming more and more businesses as time goes on. Every club has its price now. Every club has something about it that brings in pounds and brings in pennies to other people, other broadcasters, owners, sponsors, blah, blah, blah. We are just a team of people that get used constantly for sponsorship. I think if we look back, the club, but no, I will come to you. The club has significantly grown in a number of areas. Youth development, scouting network, I think that's better than ever. And we've seen that with a few of the signings and the loan moves that have happened of recent. The women's side of the club, I think that's been a fantastic success. And it's been brilliant to see how our women's football team is thriving on and off the pitch. And additionally now, the fact that we've got footballing people at board level and someone who has Manchester United DNA in his veins, in that boardroom, making footballing decisions in Darren Fletcher. That is progress. Neil, so let me come over to you.
The next stage, and I think, and I hate this word, and I can't believe that we're going to go down this route, but a lot of the clubs have done it. Liverpool are doing it. Chelsea are doing it. Everton are doing it. Is analytics. So Liverpool have just employed a guy who was at Harvard just to do this, some physics guy, knows nothing about football. So analytics, unfortunately, and I know Barry, I'm guessing Barry's going to agree on this, is going to come in and start to affect football. And analytics would have said, Jadon Sancho, 120 million, who are you trying to kid? I personally went on the record and wrote an article, and I didn't think it was worth the deal in the first place. And, you know, when we didn't get Jadon Sancho, by the way, United fans went absolutely mental on Twitter. And I don't think we've actually missed him that much this year, to be fair. He's not having a storming season. But analytics is the way the clubs will end up going. So in 5 years' time, I think we'll be talking about that a lot.
Barry, let me come over to you. You happy with that progress off the pitch?
Yeah, I think so, and I think you're mentioning that the club is more a franchise now is kind of hitting the nail on the head in terms of why one needs a director of football. If one looks across the clubs in general, the guys that grace the boardroom generally are a bunch of wealthy guys. They're not necessarily guys who know all that much about football. And we need as few footballing decisions being made at boardroom level as possible. Yes, the financial decisions, but not in terms of recruitment. Occasionally you will get, as a member of the board, you'll get a football man, as Sir Alex is a member of our board. But we would rather have football men making these decisions than guys who have gotten finance degrees at Bristol University and have worked at all sorts of big accountancy firms previously. So that's a big thing. As far as analytics are concerned, I think they're probably within the club already. And certainly we will see a lot of that. And it's a move with the times. You have to move with the times, otherwise you get left behind. So I think it's merely progress in motion.
Can I just hit on, Barry, something that you've said there actually, in terms of the club and in terms of where we are moving through the motion, so to speak. There's one area you just hit on, but it's just now completely evaded me. Oh my God, guys, I'm getting worse than you two. I'm about 40 years younger, and already my memory's evading me.
Sorry, who are you?
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to hit on something that you just said, but it's completely gone. Oh, yeah, that's it. Footballing people in footballing decisions, making footballing decisions. Let's face it, United are about 10 years behind at this moment in time, right? It doesn't matter where we go next. We're catching up now. I truly believe that. I think if you look at the clubs that have done it, they do it successfully. You've got Bayern Munich as a prime example. You've got Ajax as a brilliant example. And on the opposite point of view, that's actually two examples that are detrimental to going against that. Barcelona and Real Madrid. They are two clubs that are giants in European football, yet they, again, do not have that structure. They have presidents of the football club that run everything. And you've got to try and find a way that molds the two together. And this is where Bayern are so far ahead. Even City in some aspects, but City haven't got the legend, so to speak, to have footballing people in footballing decisions. But what they have brought in is people that Pep Guardiola trusts. We've spoken about this before, that Man City were planning for Pep years before Pep became available and came in. They hired people at boardroom level who shaped teams around Pep's style and knew how to get the people and the structure in for Pep to thrive off of. That you can't do that for every manager. Not every club can do that. That's why City, when Pep goes, there will be a dip for them because the club's not set up for any Tom, Dick and Harry to come in. Go on, Barry.
I think if you come back to Real Madrid and Barcelona, the fundamental problem that they have is the strife in the boardroom. You have
exactly
presidents. You have, and that's where there's a big problem when you have the board running the club.
Can I also say though, but there is space for financial people and businessmen within football because without them, football clubs don't thrive. Ed Woodward, what he has done from a commercial point of view is absolutely outstanding.
No question about it.
He can't be doing both. It doesn't work like that. For instance, I work as a business development manager. I can't go and put my socks on and my football boots on next week and put out a 10 out of 10 performance for the Man United first team. It's just not possible. So you've got to really bridge that gap somehow. And as you put really well, Barry, that's surely what a director of football is going to do. Well,
I hope so. Yeah,
I hope so. Let's come over to the main talking point of today's show then. Great players play for great clubs, and two of the greatest clubs in European football meet tonight. I think we can both say that. They're two clubs that have had their prime, they've had their time, they've unfortunately endured some really horrible times of recent, but tonight they face each other in the Europa League in AC Milan and Manchester United. First of all, Neil, any nice nights come to mind when I say AC Milan versus Manchester United? Let's not talk about the day that they battered us with Kaká at Old Trafford, though, shall we?
Yeah, that's the one I remember.
He was magnificent that night, wasn't he?
Paid a bloody fortune for me tickets as well for that game. Absolutely. Probably the most I've ever paid for me 2 tickets. I couldn't get tickets, so I had to buy tickets with a meal and all that rubbish.
How good were that AC Milan team, Barry?
Unbelievable.
Neil.
That AC Milan team were just God's truth. It was. You knew after 5 minutes. I mean, I was sat quite high up in the stadium, and you knew after 5 minutes that we were up against. It was like they had 12 players and we'd got 10. It was unbelievable. Rooney never got a kick, and Rooney was flying at the time, and he never got a kick. They were absolutely magnificent. I mean, I love Milan. I've been to quite a few Milan derbies. I'll just drop that one there. It's just an amazing stadium, an amazing club, amazing history. It's one of the great clubs of the world. I mean, we're the greatest club in the world, but I'd put them in the top 5, easy.
Yeah. What about you, Barry? Any big nights come to mind? Any memories come to mind for you?
Yeah, I go back quite a long way in terms of memories. And in fact, if you scroll back to before you were born, Ben, we were European champions in 1968. And the following season, we lost in the semi-finals of what was then the European Cup to AC Milan. We lost the away leg 2-0. We were leading 1-0 in the return at Old Trafford through a Bobby Charlton thunderbolt. And Dennis Law had the ball over the line. And, where was goal line technology and VAR in those days? Because the ball was about 2 feet over the line and it was disallowed. So that was not a good memory in terms of playing AC Milan. But then, of course, we thrashed them 4-0 at Old Trafford. In more recent times, one remembers David Beckham coming on as a substitute for Milan, wearing the number 32 jersey. And then, of course, the game in which we beat them 3-2 when Rooney scored that last gasp, brilliant goal, but we unfortunately got hammered in the second leg. So a lot of history between us and them. And going back even further, the season of the Munich air crash, in fact, we were bundled out. We were bundled out by AC Milan in that year. So back in the 50s. So there's a lot of history between the two clubs and two great clubs. Yes.
Two great clubs that have had great players play for them. We're going to jump into maybe some 11s in just a second. People have been tweeting us. There's some in the live chat as well. Guys, feel free to get them in and interact with the show. Hit subscribe, hit the like button too. But before we actually talk potential teams and how they could look, Neil, just a couple of players that you've seen in an AC Milan shirt that you wish could have donned the red of Man United.
Well, Pirlo. Pirlo's an unbelievable player. Nesta. Imagine Nesta and Rio as a centre half. Crespo, when he was at Milan, was brilliant. He wasn't so good when he came to Chelsea. Rivera, Seedorf, Kaká, Shevchenko. You forget, Shevchenko didn't light it up at Chelsea, but my God, he was unbelievable at Milan for the time he was there. He was a magnificent striker. Baresi. I mean, I could sit here forever because I love AC Milan. I think they're a magnificent team. They've had some amazing players. You could have some. I've picked my 11, and I've basically stayed in the sort of Premier League, Champions League era, because otherwise I'd be going back to, be Bobby Charlton, Best and Rivera playing up front, and that wouldn't be a bad front three. Van Basten, just incredible players. I mean, I've seen a lot of them. One of the most impressive live games I ever saw was a Milan derby, and Boban was absolutely different class, magnificent footballer. And I came away from the stadium thinking, my God, just sign him. Zabonabia Boban, I can't remember how they pronounce his first name. There's been some amazing players, though.
There have been some amazing players.
One. If you had to pick one, I'd have picked Pirlo.
Yeah, of course, you've got Gattuso as well. I think one player that doesn't get near enough credit for the AC Milan shirts, Cafu. What a player. And I remember Sir Alex.
When we come to the 11s, I've got a question mark there.
Go on then. Yeah, we'll come to that. As I said, generations, I think the teams would change. I agree with you. Actually, it's quite funny, isn't it? Crespo, obviously, as you said, was fantastic at Milan, went to Chelsea, couldn't get anywhere near the form. Didn't even literally couldn't do anything. Then literally, of course, 2 or 3 seasons later, was it? It wasn't that too far after. Yeah. Shevchenko then made the move, and exactly the same happened. It was mental at the time. It was crazy because you had 2 players there who were tearing it up, looked like the best strikers in world football at that point, went to Chelsea, were shite.
My friend, get this. This is a God's honest truth.
Barry, I don't believe this story. He started it with my friend. There is no chance.
When Shevchenko,
Barry,
yeah, just go sort your hair out, Barry. Go on. My pal has got Shevchenko's shirt from when he scored the penalty against Juventus at Old Trafford, the winning penalty, signed.
Wow.
In his little man cave at home.
He was a fantastic player, Shevchenko. He really was on his day. What about you, Barry? Couple of AC Milan players you wish had donned the red of United.
Yeah, I was going to say, but I've got a friend who's got that shirt signed from the winning penalty. So one of them has got a forgery, or both.
Yeah, your mate.
Well,
I can't believe you've got a friend.
Neil has pretty much rattled off every great Milan player in his ramble, but there are a couple that he left out. In terms of defenders, what about Maldini?
No, he's in my 11.
You know, so
which Maldini though?
Paolo, and of course his father Cesare. But if you look at defenders, I mean Costa Curta, Nesta, Baresi, Maldini, Desailly, they roll off the tongue. So many great players. And a couple of the strikers that he omitted to mention, George Weah, Zlatan, Felipe Inzaghi, and in midfield, Clarence Seedorf. You've got from the older generation, Donadoni, Gianni Rivera. I mean, these are all magnificent players, magnificent. And Frank Rijkaard as well. We've mentioned Gullit and Van Basten. But Rijkaard, formed one of the trilogy of the Dutch players that played there. So magnificent players they've had. The one area that I had a little bit of difficulty thinking about were great goalkeepers that they've had.
I think that's a dead cert for Schmeichel, isn't it? I don't think there's an AC Milan goalkeeper.
Oh, here comes the controversy.
Well, let's get into it, shall we? Should we do it? Let me read out a couple of tweets very, very quickly. People have been getting in touch. Actually, I believe Jacob put his all-time 11 in here as well. Schmeichel, Cafu, Baresi, Maldini, Evra. Oh, so you've moved Maldini over to centre because he's a left-back, isn't he, by trade, Maldini?
And he played a lot. Centre-half for each
played a lot. Perlo, Seedorf, Scholes, Gullit, and Ronaldo and Van Basten. Interesting. Guys, get your all-time 11s in. To be honest, it doesn't matter what 11 players we put in this team. It's going to be a pretty good team, I think. Let me just quickly go over here to my internet browser. Dan says Schmeichel, Cafu, Maldini, Baresi, Irwin has been pushed in there. Scholes, Charlton, Kaká, Best, Law, Ronaldo. Danny's put here Schmeichel, Cafu, Nesta, Ferdinand, Maldini, Ronaldo, Perlo, Seedorf, Kaká, Rooney, Shevchenko. There are just so many great players to discuss, isn't there?
Yeah, but
should we try and do it?
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to get this up on screen. I'm going to put a banner here, actually, at the bottom, so it rolls across the bottom. And we're going to start at goalkeeper. Schmeichel for me. Neil, over to you.
Van der Sar.
Barry?
Schmeichel.
Neil, how come you went Van der Sar, Neil?
Because because the way I've set my team up, I've gone 4-3-3, and you need a keeper who's good with his feet. Schmeichel, great. I'm not disputing Schmeichel's a magnificent goalkeeper. So the 12 people that follow me on Twitter don't give me earache. I'm not disputing that. That's not the point. I'm picking a squad. I've even picked a bench, a manager, an assistant manager. So I would have gone with Van der Sar because I think he's better with his feet.
Yeah, I've just picked it on the fact that we're going to have so many legends in here. I've got to go with the most legendary goalkeeper of both clubs. If I was picking goalkeeper over the best goalkeeper I've seen, because of my generation, for me, it would probably be Van der Sar, but potentially I still put in my greatest United team. I again, controversially, I go De Gea because I've seen more of him. And that's where I come from. I can only select players on who I've potentially watched. So for this, because we're going back so far, I've got to cover it on historical value as well. And that's why I'd pick Schmeichel. You can't. There's not a greater goalkeeper when it comes to accolades, when it comes to what he achieved within the game. It's Peter Schmeichel across both clubs for me.
I've looked at the analytics.
Oh yeah, United are looking for some, Neil.
I'm the man.
You're the man.
I've got naff all else to do.
Well, we've got a United player in goal. Let's go right back. Barry?
Yeah, that's a difficult one. I toss up between Cafu and I know he played mainly at left back, but Dennis Irwin, one of the two. I'm probably going with Cafu at right back.
Neil?
I've got a real problem with the right back as well. I've actually gone with either Cafu or Neville.
Yeah, that was my deliberation as well.
I'll probably go just because the system I want to play, and I could spend an hour talking about why I'm going to pick Neville. Because the right-sided centre half suits Neville.
I think we're going to have to send this over to a tiebreaker because I put Cafu.
I win.
I again at international level, his achievements cannot be touched. And additionally, I remember reading up when I was looking at that game at Old Trafford. Alex Ferguson singled him out in the interview after the game, saying, "I've never seen a player have as good a work rate as Cafu." I think one of Gary Neville's biggest attributes was work rate, and the fact that Cafu potentially has a better work rate than Gary Neville, for me, showcases how good Cafu was. And that's not even talking about his other qualities. His crossing was fantastic. His tackling was phenomenal. You know, he could hit a ball and all.
His fitness was incredible. What I mean, seriously, if you ever thought a player was doping, he'd got to be in your top two. Because my God, he was so fit, unbelievable.
Who are we going with then? We've all gone with someone different.
I've gone with Neville. Well, I win Neville.
Cafu? All right.
Yes.
Barry's agreed with me on Cafu. Let's go Cafu. Right. What about centre back? We've got to pick two. So who's your? Let's go two each. Again, I've just gone off of what I've actually hypocrited myself on this one. I've gone one off of who I've seen live, and is one of my favourite defenders, and another on achievement and accolades / the historical value of this player, especially to AC Milan. Sorry, I've gone Rio. And I've gone Baresi. And the reason why I've gone with those two, sort of thinking tactically, they can complement each other. Rio's very much a bit more faster. He's very much got a fantastic pass on him. Yeah, Baresi could pass the ball from what I've watched and what I've seen. But one of Baresi's biggest attributes was that he was an out-and-out defender, and the only thing he cared about was defending. I think the fact that AC Milan, a club of AC Milan's value in '99, named him the greatest player of the century, also retired the number 6 shirt in his honor, I think says everything about how highly commanded he is within the club. And let's face it, it's a fantastic club with fantastic history, especially when it comes to defenders. My only thing here was that I love Stam, I love Vidic. We could name some other Manchester United centre-backs as well. I was actually toying at whether I go a double AC Milan partnership here, because I think Nesta's fantastic as well. I think Nesta is one of the most underrated defenders of all time. So I've put Rio in there to get a United player in that centre-back position, but I've put Baresi in. Has everyone else put Baresi in? Has anyone else put Rio in? Barry, let me come to you first.
Right. I go with Nesta and Baresi. I'm leaving out the United centre-backs, as great as they were. But the Italian centre-backs, if you went 1-0 down against that team, you were never going to score. They were, they locked up the defense. They were defenders par excellence and probably the best at their game. So they would be the two that I would go for.
What about you, Neil?
See, both of you are wrong again. I can't believe this. I've gone with Rio as the right-sided centre-half because then he could play alongside Neville. And then I've gone with Nesta as the left-sided centre-half, because I know we've all picked the same left back. We've all picked the same left back. That's pretty. If there's one position,
well, we've all got Maldini, haven't we? We've all got Maldini.
We've all got Maldini. Yeah, I mean that's the only position that we've all agreed in is Maldini left back. So I've got Nesta and Maldini on the left side of the defence, and Rio and Neville on the right side with Van der Sar behind them. Tactically, perfect. Thank you very much.
Well, the argument here then is over. We're all in with, well, we're not. We've all picked a same defender twice. Me and Barry have gone Baresi. Neil, me and you have gone Rio. And then Barry and Neil, you've both gone Nesta. So what do we go? Personally, I was going to pick Nesta over Rio. So do we even try to shoehorn Rio Ferdinand into this team? Or do we put Nesta in?
The pace of Nesta and Rio and their size. And also in both...
I'm not thinking about this tactically, Neil.
Yeah, I can't help it. But Nesta's... I think
Neil,
Nesta's...
You're over-analysing. Too many analytics at the moment.
Told
you. United need you.
I am the AFU analytics man. There you
Do you know
go,
what
Ben.
I'm going to do? Do you know what I'm going to do? AFU analytics, man. Abdel might have something to say about that, Neil. What I'll do is I'm going to put this to Twitter. I'm going to leave that second centre back spot open, and we're going to put a poll up on Twitter right now. I'm going to put vote on Twitter here. And I'm going to let people vote who they want as that second centre back, Nesta or Rio Ferdinand. Quickly, Neil, how good was Maldini?
Oh, incredible. I mean, you talk about, we talked about American football, and they say lockdown position, like defender. It was just a lockdown, wasn't it? I mean, he was just unbelievable defender going both ways. You know, I mean, that Barry's right. That centre half, the defence that Milan have had over the years was absolutely incredible. Maldini, I mean, he could play quite as easily at centre half as he could at left back, and he scored goals. He did score a goal. He got into the box, the opposition box. It was fantastic. He's like Luke Shaw.
Like Luke Shaw. I love that. I love how we're comparing Maldini to Luke Shaw. How great was Maldini? Oh, he was like Luke Shaw. Barry, what about you? How good was Maldini?
Maldini.
You haven't just said that. You haven't just said that.
I'm a massive fan of Luke Shaw. You know that, Ben.
Maldini is probably the greatest left back that has ever played football. I mean,
unbelievable.
He is just the consummate player, brilliant defender, and good going forward. A magnificent player, an unbelievable longevity as well. So a magnificent player. I don't think anyone in their right mind leaves him out of this team.
I think if Mark Biggs was an Italian, he'd look like Maldini.
If we're going to start calling him AFU's Maldini. I've tweeted that out. Guys, if you want to get on Twitter, feel free to decide. It's up for 8 minutes. The defence so far is Schmeichel, Cafu, Baresi and Maldini. Who gets that second centre-back spot, Nesta or Rio Ferdinand? You guys can decide on that now at the @AllForUnited Twitter. Sorry, Neil, was you going to say something?
Can we vote?
Yeah, you can go and vote. It's up to you, yeah. Let's move on, though. Are we going to do a 4-4-2 or have you overanalyzed this, Neil? 4-3-3.
I'm going 3-3.
Barry?
Yeah, that's fine.
4-3-3. Okay, let's go with the midfield then. And we will start with... should we start with Paul Scholes? Have we all got him in? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we've all got Scholes in.
I'd have quit the show if you hadn't got Scholes.
Have we all got Pirlo in?
Yep.
Yes.
So it's down to that final player then in the three. I'll tell you who I've got. I've put Kaká in. Again,
Same as
my generation. I know many would maybe go for someone different, but I've gone Kaká. Barry?
Yeah. I'll go for Brian Robson.
Oh, why?
You've got Scholes and Pirlo, who are both two sublime passers of the ball. You need a bit of an enforcer in the midfield as well, and nobody better than Robbo. Of course, there are the Roy Keane fanatics that would go with him, and I guess our Italian connections may go with Gattuso. But for me, Brian Robson, the greatest leader that we've ever had, and one of our greatest midfielders ever. So I would go with Robbo.
I mean, we've outvoted him, Barry, but let's entertain him anyway. What would Brian Robson bring to that?
Your counter argument might be that the back five are so strong that you don't need anybody in midfield. But I think to have three kind of midfield artists occupying that, just from a tactical point of view, and I know we're not talking tactics, but I would go with Robbo. I think you guys have been a bit hasty in your choices.
Well, let's put it this way, Barry. There's a number of midfield enforcers we've left out. Potentially Brian Robson's one of them, but Roy Keane, Neil, is another one. Gattuso's another one. There's so many good midfield enforcers.
I mentioned him, but it depends. It depends how far back in history you want to go. We maybe should have put a kind of time frame on this, because there are those who would put Duncan Edwards in the team. So
of course
you've got to put a time frame.
That's why I kept it in the Champions League era, Barry, because I would definitely put Duncan in midfield.
Do you know what though? Again, it doesn't matter what team we come up with now, what caps we put on it. There's still going to be people who are going, no, I'll take him out. I'll put them in. I'll put this person in. I'll take that person out. So I think actually, in terms of this poll, it's just personal opinion. And I think the big thing with it is names that come to mind. So if you're looking at the great Manchester United players and the great AC Milan players, like this isn't us going, this is the greatest team of all time between the two clubs. This is us going, hey, we want to talk about these players because both clubs have such rich history of fantastic footballers. Again, another footballer we didn't put in, Rue Gullit, Carlo Ancelotti. So many fantastic players within the two sides. Neil, let's just hit on a couple of players that we haven't spoken about. Seedorf being another one, by the way. Isn't he a four-time Champions League winner or something?
I thought it was 5, wasn't it?
Was it five?
Ajax, Inter, Real Madrid. Ajax, Inter, Real Madrid, AC Milan.
Didn't he win it twice? He won it twice at Madrid, didn't he?
Yeah, won it twice at Madrid. I thought he'd won five with 4 different clubs or something. I mean, and never looked like he was wearing slippers, didn't he? The way he just used to just bowl around the place. I mean, make an effort, pal. You got Cafu running his bollocks off up and down the wing, and you got Seedorf smoking cigars and looking like one of the best midfield players the world's ever seen. I mean, just give me a break. I mean, just a magnificent player, just unbelievable. I mean, you loved him at United, by the way. If you couldn't have got Pirlo, I would have definitely Seedorf, but just in the system that I've looked, because my theory is that once we've got the ball, no one's going to get it off us anyway, so we don't need an enforcer. But I mean, I'm looking at the list here. Boban again could play midfield, could play in either, could play like Barry said. Gullit. I can't pick Rijkaard because of that spitting thing. It still winds me up from the 1990 World Cup with him and the German geezer. I can't remember his name.
Rudy Voller.
Yeah, Voller.
Was Rudy Voller.
Yeah. I'd have spat at Voller, though, to be fair. Rijkaard was a great player. Great player.
Yeah.
Pretty decent manager as well.
Some great AC Milan players, some great United players as well, Barry. Of course, as you said, putting timeframes on it, you might have involved, as you said, Edwards, Best, of course. We could be looking at the likes I mentioned, Keane, Carrick even as well, a fantastic midfielder for United. It's hard to get that balance right, isn't it, between these two great clubs? There's some fantastic history there.
Well, if you thought that was difficult, wait till we have to choose the front runners. That's the biggest.
No, I've got this on lock because I've got a bit of a wild card on throwing in there. You ready for my wild card? We can't not put him in because he covers both bases.
Is it Bebe?
Bebe, yeah. No, you can't not put him in. He covers both bases. That way, we're equal in our selection. Beckham's got to go in there.
No.
He played for AC. Played for Man United.
Get off. Don't talk wet. Ben.
Well, Ibrahimovic also played for both of them.
No, not
Beckham.
No,
Beckham. Wait, but then again, also, you tell me...
Doesn't even get on my bench.
Beckham gets in my all-time United 11 over Ryan Giggs.
No.
He does. No. Yeah, he does. Beckham was a player of a generation. You are forgetting that. For those people who grew up in the early 90s, were going to school, learning about football in the late 90s, the early noughties, David Beckham was the icon within football. Anyone who wanted to be a footballer, anyone who wanted to get into football as a fan, the main reason why they were doing so was because of David Beckham. He was that iconic to us youngsters at that time. So me growing up as not just a United fan, but just a freaking football freak as I am now, my dad says to me now, right, how do you watch other teams play football? And I said, because I love football. Like, I'm a football enthusiast. I can watch any clubs. The reason why I love football is because at a young age, I was getting into football. I was watching David Beckham. I was then watching the teams around him, and it became much more about a football thing than just a club. But my main love was always Manchester United. But there would be no me loving football if it wasn't for David Beckham. And that goes for nearly all of my mates as well. And I think that's why...
Yeah,
Go on, Barry.
You're speaking. I understand what you're saying, and you're speaking of your generation. And likewise, I can say the same, because if you think that Beckham generated interest, George Best generated unbelievable interest in a time where there was no social media, where television coverage was at a minimum, yet he was just simply breathtaking. And, even fans of rival clubs would have acknowledged that. So I hope that when we're talking about our front runners, he will be an automatic choice. Although if we're dealing in the Premiership era, of course, we won't consider him.
But this is why generations, the teams are always going to be so different. Go on, Neil.
Regards Beckham, one of the reasons he was successful and famous was marketing, which none of like Best never had that. I mean, George Best was known as the fifth Beatle. Hang on, Ben. This is a generational thing. George Best was known as the fifth Beatle. I don't think there's anybody under the age of 40 who knows how big the Beatles were. Beckham doesn't get in my top 20 players.
I get that. But I also come back to the point that you say that it's all about marketing. Beckham was a phenomenal footballer. We're forgetting how good Beckham was. Beckham should have won the Ballon d'Or. That year, Beckham should have won the Ballon d'Or. Beckham, they're potentially, I'm just putting out there, there's no treble without David Beckham. There isn't. And I think that can be stated on record. There really isn't. You come across on how lucky those two late goals potentially were. Those corners that he put in the box in the final moments of the game when we really needed someone to deliver were fantastic balls in the box. They're perfect deliveries. And all I would say is for me, and again, look, I completely get it. I could probably name 25 different footballers between AC Milan and Manchester United that depend to be in that front three. But for me and my generation, when it comes to David Beckham, taking a free kick with your arm in the air, bent, with the ball at the side of the inside of your foot, the way you take that free kick, that is iconic. And that is what David Beckham done. But do you know what's also brilliant about that? Every single time he done it magnificently. He's a fantastic, such an underrated footballer. I'm
not disputing he's a great footballer. But what I'm saying, just take a bit of a step back. He was always desperate to play centre midfield, right? Mm-hmm. Always moaning to Ferguson, I want to play centre mid. And he couldn't make that step up. Now, if he could have made the transition from, and there's one player playing in the Premier League today who's, I'm not going to compare the two, but there's a similarity. And he wanted to play centre mid. And every time Beckham was played in centre mid, the game passed him by. Put him on the wide, get the ball out of his feet, and he could whip a crossing from anywhere. Remember, there was a couple of crosses at Anfield where Andy Cole scored, and he was about a yard. He was about a yard off the line, and Beckham was whipping him in from miles out of Anfield. And I was at that game. And United got clapped off by the Liverpool fans. They absolutely destroyed Liverpool. Beckham was amazing that day, and yes, he's an iconic player, and all that sort of stuff. But there was a big brand around him, and it was brand Beckham.
But he built that brand because of how fantastic he was and how he approached the game and done things differently. That's what I mean. Even just going down to his stance. And Barry, do you know what? Actually, I can't believe I'm doing this, right? Barry made that reference to rugby the other day, right? And I'm going to do it now.
Oh.
The way Johnny Wilkinson runs up to take a kick. Now, obviously England rugby player, the way he does that, the way he bends down, the way he used to shake, the way he done it, that again, growing up as an England rugby fan and playing rugby like I done, that was an iconic moment. Johnny Wilkinson wasn't a fantastic rugby player, but what he did was iconic, which made him an iconic person within the sport. David Beckham is similar.
I'd like to get a word in here, please.
Sorry, Barry.
I'd just like to say to you both, you gave me so much flack for talking about Springbok rugby, and you have the audacity when we are discussing the finest United AC Milan combined team, and you got flipping Johnny Wilkinson that you talking about.
Okay. Here's another example. Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt. Okay, here's another one. Usain Bolt. Are you telling me? Okay, Usain Bolt's extremely talented at what he do, but are you telling me that Usain Bolt is as iconic / PR machine as he is without his motion that he does when he wins a race? Yeah. He's not. These little things as fans, you pick up on them.
No, can I just
say, when you're talking to a gastroenterologist and you mention motion, I can interpret that in different ways. So I have to say, in my medical career, I've not witnessed, I'm pleased to say, Usain Bolt's motion, but I'm sure it's pretty helpful.
Ben's just set Barry's pager off.
Do you know what? All I'm thinking now is that every time Barry does a successful like operation, he's just running around doing some iconic dance that all of his team pick up.
Tell you what I'm worried about. I'm worried about my next motion now.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what I'm saying? For me, that's where the marketing come from. The marketing didn't come from the fact that he invested in such a massive PR team around him. Obviously, he got fame off of falling in love or for him and Victoria hooking up. But his fame as a footballer comes from what he did on that football pitch, not out of it, is what I'm trying to say. And for people like me who grew up with David Beckham, watching David Beckham, look, I'll always have his back because I do think he is massively criminally underrated. I know you guys aren't slating him or anything, and I get where you're coming from in terms of this all-time 11. And this is what I was saying earlier in terms of generations and how we build that team and how we talk about the players that we love and we'd love to see in that all-time team. For me, I don't have an all-time 11 without my childhood hero. And that's why David Beckham goes into my team. Go on, Baz. Sorry, Neil.
That's when you're at Old Trafford, you remember the days when we used to have crowds? Long time ago.
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, and you used to go to the game and you'd see all the banners up, and then you'd hear the fans singing all the fantastic songs we sing. And you ever heard him sing about Beckham?
Yeah, but that's because of the way it ended, isn't it?
No. Have you ever heard him sing about Beckham?
But that's because of the way it ended, Neil. We know that.
The hardcore fans sing about the players they love and respect. And that's the point. Now, Beckham ended it. And you've got to admit, Best ended it really badly. And we could have a whole program on George Best and the way he left, because I'd get my dad involved in this and just let my dad and Barry chat. But that's what I looked. When you go up there, when you see a Beckham shirt, it's normally a youngster. I can't say the rest of it because I'm going to get slagged off. But
Neil, on that, and you can tell me this, and this is me asking this general question, would you say that people were singing about Best, right, as much as they did 10 to 15 years, 20 years after he left, compared to what they do, so to speak, now, or of recent times? Or are these chants that have been made, obviously of recent, to commend and commemorate an absolutely outstanding footballer? I think we will. I'm not saying he's forgotten, but were these chants in stadiums happening? Say, to speak, if he left United in, God, when did he leave United in the end? Beckham, 2000. No, not Best. Beckham, 2004,
2002.
Was it 2 or was it 3? Or was it 2? Was it 2? Right. So that is what? That's not even 20 years ago now, right? I'm going to put this on record. I reckon there will be people will sing about Beckham. When the generations start to take over, there will be a different outlook on people that are sung about. It was 2003. I don't think, and you can correct me on this, but I doubt people were singing as much about Best in the 80s and 90s at games, early 90s. Probably they started at the late 90s compared to now.
Best has got a statue.
It's not, but when did he get the statue?
Beckham won't get one.
I'm not debating whether he gets a statue or not. I'm just trying to say, as me as a United fan and me as someone who came into sport and football because of David Beckham, I can't leave him out of an all-time team.
No, I understand, Ben. It's a generational thing. There's 25 years between us. So it is completely...
Jacob makes a point. Didn't we have a chant about Fellaini in 2003?
I think the second word of the chant was off. I remember that.
Anyway, can we talk about your players anyway?
Yeah. Ben, have you put Beckham into the United AC Milan team as one of the front three? I'm a bit confused.
No, well, I originally done a 4-4-2. So I had him at my right hand side of midfield, and then I had Ronaldo on the left. No, I had Ronaldo on the left.
What, instead of Giggs?
Well, this is what I mean. This is a debate.
All right, so are we doing 4-3-3?
No, we're doing 4-3-3. Yeah, I want to hear from you guys now. Go on then. Right wing. Come on, I'll stop talking about Beckham because I've spoken about it for about an hour.
There's only one.
No one here.
Ronaldo.
Barry.
Well, Ronaldo's definitely in my front three. No question about that. You can
Why
put him
does
wherever
Ronaldo
you
get in
want.
over Beckham? That's what I'll never understand.
Have you seen him play?
Yeah, did he win a Ballon d'Or at United?
No.
Yes.
No, but
Ronaldo,
was he close?
yes.
Was he?
Yeah,
oh no,
did.
of course he did. Yeah, he did, didn't he? In his final season.
Ronaldo
Did he win the
won it
Ballon
in
d'Or?
Oh, that's my argument out the window.
Ben, put that on Twitter.
I was about to say, was he as close as Beckham at winning a Ballon d'Or at United? But yeah, he was. He won one.
He was closer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, Ben, you know when you're in a hole, put the shovel down.
Oh, well, mate, I've literally just admitted to getting that one wrong, so that's fine. Right, so Ronaldo goes in at right wing. Who goes in up top?
Go on, Barry. No, you go first. Barry. Van Basten.
Sure. Very, very, very tough one.
Van Basten.
I go Van Nistelrooy.
I put Van Nistelrooy. Thank you, Barry.
You've got to be kidding. You genuinely think that Van Basten doesn't get into the Dutch all-time 11 in front of Van Nistelrooy?
I think Van Nistelrooy's a better predator than Van Basten.
What?
So he gets into my team. Yeah.
You know, I'm talking about Marco Van Basten, not the plumber, not Eric Van Basten, the plumber from Sutton Coldfield. Who got too small.
At this stage, I can leave the conversation and just leave Neil and Barry to talk about this for the next hour.
Mark, you're picking Van Nistelrooy above Van Basten. Marco Van Basten.
Yep.
God, did you bang your head this morning? Because if you didn't, you need to.
What about Wayne Rooney?
He's on the left.
He's on the left.
4-3-3. Rooney was brilliant off the left. As a 4-3-3, Rooney can play there. Rooney plays there. And I'd swap them over anyway. They're all interchangeable.
Barry, what about you on the left?
Sure.
Rooney.
I don't know. I may be playing two out-and-out strikers up front. Rooney may be one of them. But what I'm doing, and I'm saying this openly, is I am looking up because I want to just counter to Neil about Van Basten's statistics so that if I'm wrong, I'm going to have to recant on what I'm saying.
I tell you what, Barry, I'll take the apology now and you can just put your phone down.
And certainly when one looks at his statistics at Ajax, I have to take back what I said because at Ajax he was a goals machine. So, I take that back. Not as prolific as at Milan as he was at Ajax. And I'm going to stand my ground. I'm going to keep Van Nistelrooy in ahead of Van Basten.
I'd put Johnny Wilkinson in front of Van Nistelrooy.
But I'm going to put Van Basten in ahead of Rooney.
What? You're just appeasing me now. That's rubbish, man.
No, I'm not.
You can't play Van Basten on the left.
I can play him I can play him up front. Sure, I can.
So wait a second. So you guys bollocked me for not putting Giggs in my team. Yet Giggs doesn't get anywhere near your team.
Yeah, because I'm playing 4-3-3. 4-4-2. Giggs is in.
For who? Who would you drop out the two front players? What would you have? Van Basten and Ruud, and then Ronaldo out for Giggs?
I'd probably.
Or would you drop Kaká or Pirlo for Giggs or Scholes for Giggs?
I'd take Pirlo out.
If I play 4-4-2, I'd have Ronaldo as one of the four, and I'd have Van Basten and Van Nistelrooy up front.
See, he knows.
Remember that my midfield three were not the same as yours, and I wouldn't have Kaká, Pirlo, and Scholes. Sorry, Neil, you're developing a bad tremor in your left arm there, man.
Yeah, you're lucky your tremor's not got down your neck.
Left arm, Neil.
It's not letting me edit this banner anymore, but can I just say how much better that front three is if you put Beckham on the right, Ronaldo on the left, and Van Basten up top?
Beckham's not a striker.
So much better.
Beckham's not a striker. First of all, he's got no pace. So how can he play up top?
He doesn't need to have pace. Beckham pinging those balls in the box for Van Basten to head in, Neil, is a thing of beauty.
Ben, we outvote you on this one.
But you're playing Van Basten or Ruud van Nistelrooy off the left. Sure, I agree with Neil. You've got to play Rooney there if you're going to play one of any of those two, and then you've got to have Van Basten down the middle. I love Ruud van Nistelrooy, but if we're talking about historics...
Can I just say, this is a classic case of Barry has realised, and you can see his tiny little head there ticking round and round, and that brain's whirring away. He's going into his motions. Hey, see? And he's realised, oh shit, I forgot about Van Basten. Oh damn! So how do I get Van Basten in to make sure I don't look back? Van Basten's just
One more question for
Neil,
each of
one
you.
of the advantages of doing the program with you, mate, is even if I want to try and look bad, I don't.
No,
Well,
exactly.
look, could I just make a few more points, please? Right. Finally, Twitter have voted Rio is in over Nesta. So it's a team of Schmeichel, Cafu, Baresi, Ferdinand, Maldini, Scholes, Pirlo, Kaká, Ronaldo, Van Nistelrooy, Van Basten. How that front three works, I don't friggin' know. But we'll go with it. Why doesn't Cantona get in this team, Barry?
Because he wasn't very good in Europe.
You know, in what role would you put Cantona in that team? Great player, but in terms of if you have him there as a striker, he's not nearly as prolific as those three that we have over there. So no, he doesn't make that team, I'm afraid. The other thing is, I guess the detractors of Cantona will say that in European games, it's the one kind of game that he didn't really turn it on as much as he did in Premiership games. But I mean, wonderful player, legend. If you speak to the modern day United fans like yourself, Ben, he gets into the all-time United team. If you look at books that have been published, United's top 100 players, Cantona comes out at number 1. So he's the popular choice amongst the sort of modern day fans. But I don't think he ranks with those players, coupled with the fact that from a longevity point of view, he also doesn't quite cut it. I mean, he retired at 31. The others went on longer than he did.
What about Rooney, Neil? I know you put him off the left, but why doesn't he automatically go in as the number 9? Is our all-time greatest goal scorer. Why doesn't he get in at number 9?
I've got to say it again. Van Basten.
Yeah, but why? Load me with some facts. Go on, show me your analysis.
Well, I don't need to do the analysis. You just look at the players. I'll do the analytics if you want.
But there'd be plenty of people out there who don't know much about Van Basten because it's before their time. So tell us why for you Van Basten gets in over Rooney.
If there's anybody that doesn't know anything about Marco Van Basten, watch the goal he scored against Russia in the Euros, and watch that goal. And if you've never seen that goal before, watch that goal on YouTube. And when the ball's in the air, stop it and say, right, what happens next? Because it's nearly impossible to work it out. That's one of the greatest goals ever scored. He was so quick. He was.
Do you remember who assisted him for that goal, Neil?
David Beckham.
Arnold Muren.
Johnny Wilkinson.
Arnold Muren.
Arnold Muren, yeah.
Yeah.
Neil
Rooney
doesn't have a clue who that is.
Rooney doesn't get in as the number 9, Ben, because his goals per game ratio is nowhere near the other guys.
Rooney gets in because of his work rate, and he's a team player, and he can play off the left. Ferguson used to get him to play off the left. That idiot Moyes used to get him to play off the left.
We've stated earlier that we're picking great names in the team. We're not picking tactical formations, etc.
I am.
If you're picking tactical, no, you said we're not, because if you're picking tactical formations, you've got to change it up because you don't have wide players over there.
Neil's yo-yoed. Do you know what? For me, if you're going tactical, the person you probably play off the left is potentially Kluivert.
Not Beckham.
No, he plays off the right.
No, not Kluivert.
But we're not doing that. But Kluivert has more about him out.
Have you two set out to wind me up today?
Kluivert was a fantastic footballer.
Yeah, but you've got him off the left.
No, I haven't. I'm saying if we're being, he doesn't even get in my team. But I'm saying if we're being tactical about it, and we're looking at a front three, you want to have someone who's got a bit of pace out on that left-hand side, and is more natural to that position over anyone else you've mentioned. It'd probably be Kluivert, or even Giggs. I still say Giggs. I still say Ronaldo. I still say Ronaldo's more suited to that left wing if we're being over tactical, and you put someone else on the right.
I'm so angry. I've just broke my pen.
Well, there we go. We've decided. We've gone with your front three. Van Basten's in there, Neil.
I know
it's fine. It's okay.
Absolutely.
It's okay.
Van Basten would have been at United in that time. I mean, he got a terrible ankle injury, and that's what curtailed his career. I mean, he was. You look at. I mean, up against those Italian defenders, they used to kick the crap out of him. He was magnificent. He was the first name I put down.
Can I also just say, by the way, I think we're glossing, although we're talking about this team and we're building this team, we're glossing over the fact how many players within this team are the best in class that we've potentially seen on a football pitch.
Oh.
You know, you're talking about the likes of Baresi, you're talking about the likes of Schmeichel, Cafu, Maldini, even Rio Ferdinand. When it comes to English defenders, there's not many that have been better than him. Fantastic English defender. Their midfielders, Scholes, Pirlo, Kaká. That night at Old Trafford, Kaká. Talk about auditions on the biggest stage. Unbelievable. And he continued to be unbelievable for so long. And again, moving on to that front line, you talk about Ruud van Nistelrooy, one of the greatest strikers we have seen at the club, a phenomenal striker. Van Basten, one of the greatest of the game. David Beckham, phenomenal. And we end the show there. Thank you guys for watching. Of course, Ronaldo, one of the GOATs. Thank you guys for watching. That was good. Barry, do you feel good?
How's your motion?
Have we all had a rant and have we all had a ramble?
I'm going for a ramble.
I reckon, well, I don't know. Neil tended to ramble as usual. So, yeah.
Well.
But ranting is good. And if the result doesn't go according to our liking tonight, we'll be ranting. That's for sure.
I just like the fact that Barry had to admit when he looked at the stats for Van Basten, he had to back off.
Neil. Let's not joke about it.
Was in my team, Neil. But
what I say is red.
Let's not joke about it, Neil. Barry was trying to find a way to get Jack Grealish in that front three just a moment ago. That's why it was ticking.
No, Ben, I don't want him in my front three, but I want him in my midfield somewhere. Okay, I definitely want him. And I hear from reliable sources that our director of football is going to go all out to get him.
I tell you what, I've got a midfield for Grealish to play in.
Yeah, I'm not going to even ask you to finish that joke. Guys, thank you for watching.
Don't finish it, Neil.
Go for it, Neil. Go for it, Barry.
The girlfriend might hear me and I could be in a world of trouble.
Thank you for sounding off in the live chat. Remember, Karthik and the guys are back tonight with the post-match reaction show. Catch that on the All for United channel. It's got very dark in this front room. I'm going to get out of here. Stay safe, guys. We'll be back live tomorrow. I'm going to have some All for United contributors joining me to take a look at how Twitter reacted to what is going to be tonight's game. So join me there. Neil, Barry, back next Thursday with Rants and Rambles. Looking forward to it, lads. Speak soon. Stay safe, everyone.